Today on Down with Dedee, my mom will be having a conversation with Elissa Stacey.
Well, first of all, I want to say, Elissa, thank you for joining me on Down with Dedee. For those of you watching and listening, Elissa is really special to my heart. Elissa was my sober coach just under 5 years ago when I started my recovery journey, and she's now my sponsor and a really good friend, not only to me, but to my family. And what I love about what Elissa does for not just me, but for other people is that she offers this service called a sober coach. So Elissa, go for it. What's a sober coach?
Okay, well, first of all, I am so honored to be your guest, and thank you so much for having me. And it's just amazing because I keep thinking of you the day I met you, and you were really nervous about going to treatment, and your energy was just so vulnerable and scared, and you didn't know what to expect. And I just remember looking at you and just being like, I promise and guarantee that if you just stay one day at a time, it's going to work out better than you could ever imagine. And to see you right now and doing this in your past 5 years, I mean, honestly, that's why I am a sober coach companion person, because I think it works. And I'm so just grateful that, to be a part of your journey. So what a sober coach companion is okay, well, let me go back. So I'm actually about to be 10 years sober, and I was, thank you. And before I got sober, I was a comedian, and I didn't really know what I was going to do when I got sober. And I met this woman, Kathleen, and she became my mentor. And she was this amazing therapist, and she ran a treatment center. And I became a counselor, and I did that kind of work. And then, part of my creativity I was missing. And so somebody was like, oh, well, would you ever want to be a sober companion coach? And I was like, sure, what's that? It's individual for everybody. I mean, sometimes it's 24/7 for a month. Sometimes it's 8 hours a day. Sometimes you split a case with another companion coach, and it's 3 days a week. And it's really, it depends on the individual person. And why I originally got into it is because I was like, oh, I can be creative, and then I could work and be creative, and I could still, do that. But why I love it, and I think it works so much, is because what I came to find out was when you're a sober coach companion, which again, it really depends. A lot of the times, a family or a person hires an agency, and they do like a full kind of case management thing. So they have a companion, a case management, and they generally just are in charge of a person's recovery, whether it be addiction, eating disorders, mental health stuff. And you could hire a company for anything related to wellness, right? And so for me, why I love it so much and why I think it works is because, and I love treatment too. But the thing with that about what I do is I'm in your life.
Yeah.
So instead of you just like being in a bubble and coming home and not having that support, I'm right there, right with you, and we're integrating you into your life. So instead of, you being back to the scene of the crime and then, maybe picking up a phone or doing whatever, which again works as well. And I believe anybody could, be sober or on their path of healing 1 minute at a time in any capacity if that's what you want, right? But the service of coaching and companioning, it's really just real-time support in your individual life. And it takes like the bridge and the gap away from like making maybe a bad decision when you're in a vulnerable position. And it's just that constant encouragement support. Some people don't want it.
Yeah.
And their family gets it, maybe, and that doesn't work as much. But with you, I think you were just so open and ready to change, and just we're so willing. And I think in our dynamic, in our relationship, we also like build trust and that kind of dynamic for your safety. And then in that, I believe people heal through creating healthy attachments.
Right.
And in our healthy attachment, you started to kind of melt a little bit. And like what you always say is like, I met you where you're at. So I'm not going to push anything down your throat. Like, who are you and what do you want? And how can I best support you? And I'm like a chameleon in that way. And whatever's going to help the person in whatever capacity, and individualize is what kind of that job entails.
Right. What you did and provided for me and my children, my family, was priceless. You can't put a price tag on that. And basically, to kind of wrap that up, was I met you, and it was probably a day or two later, I was off to rehab, 30 days intensive, no computers, no phones, no talking to anybody. And you stayed with my boys, which was
is not something I normally do.
it was like I said, Elissa, who is a sober coach who has all the sobriety, who works with the clinic, will stay there and not only like house sit my boys, which was a huge factor for me because I wasn't going anywhere unless I knew my boys and my animals, all my were okay. And so I met you, and you had just this amazing energy. And my family met you and said, "Oh yes," and then my family, of course, was also there, involved in taking care of my children. But you were there to not just be a babysitter, but you were there to provide any kind of answers that my sons might, questions they may have, and my family. So while I was off in rehab crying and peeling the ugly onion and crying and my trauma and doing all this work on myself, I could calmly know that there was this person who was answering my family's questions, who were like, what are they doing to her? Are they, because nobody understands what happens behind the closed doors in rehab. And you were there to say, I promise you it's beautiful. I promise you it's going to be a rebirth. She's not going to come back with a third eye. She's going to come back different. So you were there to prepare them for how I was going to come back, and also answer their questions, because people do have questions. My boys didn't have any questions. They were like, hey, are we going to be ordering Starbucks or not? Right. And you guys were ordering Starbucks behind my back. They didn't do that when we didn't do that. So they were like, you need to go to rehab more often. They were you were like, I heard just ordering all sorts of frappuccinos and danishes. I got back, I was like, what? Because you're like, oh, don't you guys do this? I was like, no, we didn't do that. They didn't have any questions from what I understand. Because they knew somehow
they were teenage boys, or Max wasn't a teenager yet. And they were just kind of like, playing video games. And I just was kind of like tiptoeing, like, how can I be a kind, safe, supportive person? And, I think for me, because I used to be a comedian, I'm so weird and silly and goofy, and that kind of breaks the ice. And so I just remember
they have a mother who's weird and crazy. And
exactly. And so I was like, like super awkward. And it kind of like broke down that barrier. And I think the Starbucks maybe was some type of bribe, perhaps, like slowly, subconsciously. But, I remember like playing a game with them or something. I forgot which one it was. And then we were all laughing, I think a week into it. And I was like, yes, like, like I kind of, there's something here. And then, just so if they wanted to ask a question, I was a safe person. And I think like a little bit they did, but it was really about prepping them for when you came home.
Right. Also, I don't know if you realize, which I'm sure you do, you're a very smart woman, and you know this much better than myself, but what you did was you also came to where they were at. You understood they were teenagers. You understood, do not jump in their lane. You let them come to you if they had any questions, which they didn't, other than when are we ordering Starbucks today? And also, they told me that they liked you because you stayed in your lane. They said, when I got out, I said, what do you think, Elissa? They go, we really like her. She was super cool. She was funny. And she just kind of left us alone and let us do our own thing. I was like, wow, she got it. You weren't like, hi, I'm here, and just got in their lane, giving them information when they weren't ready, or maybe they weren't ready or whatever. But I love that. And you also provided that for my family, because while I was over there, just trying to get it every single day, worked so hard on my sobriety in this rehab, not talking to my family. I heard from my family when I got out that Elissa kept us abreast of what was going on. You talked to the clinicians, or me, actually, because you and I did talk. and you would tell them she's doing great. She's doing it. She's just working it. She's leaning into her sobriety. She's leaning into the trauma. She's leaning into the pain. She hasn't left the doors, because, by the way, at any moment I could have just walked out and just gone home. And you were like, she's still in there fighting. She's still in there. And that's all my family needed to hear.
Totally.
Was, okay, you guys aren't sticking her with some weird serum. She's not going to come back with a third eye. I did come back different. And one thing I had to learn, and I think it was you who reminded me, when we get sober, or when we come out of rehab, we come back a different person. Your environment's the same. They're still doing whatever it is they're doing. So what's hard, I think, without that added support, is for someone like you to say to someone like me, well, you've changed in a good way. Listen, everyone loves the change, but I want to share that with everyone around me. And I did that with my son. I jumped in his lane and wanted them all to know. I named my addict. Her name is WD-50. You just started talking all this like talk and recovery, and I think it scared them. And do you remember that one day? It was very early on in my recovery.
I do. And that's why in recovery, there's all these cliche, like little bumper stickers, like attraction, not promotion. It's like when we have that shift in tone,
not the result. Yeah.
announce it to the world. Like I remember telling my dad, I was sober, and he was like, okay. And then he didn't come to give me a cake in the meeting for 2 years, because then it's like, we have to earn that. People have to see it. People, it's kind of like the little boy who cried wolf, or whatever that is they want a consistency, because when, you're kind of creating a tornado or in chaos in someone's life, they're very apprehensive to believe you just on your word right when you get out.
Because it takes time. They're still uncovering some of the pain and stuff that they went through, having a mother who's an alcoholic, the children of an alcoholic parent, and also the single mother thing, and the whole, they've got some attachment and some abandonment issues. And sometimes they get really angry, and I go, ooh, I'm wondering if this is some old stuff they haven't really processed. And I have to remember, okay, they're probably still a little angry at me, because when I was there, I was there. And when I wasn't, I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But thank you for saying that. Also, I want to bring this up because you were so amazing when I just got out and I jumped into Braxton's lane. And remember what he said to me that one morning? He looked at me and he just said, I wish you'd go back to rehab.
Yeah.
And you heard it. You were in the other room. That was as if a knife went into my heart and turned it 5 times. And I remember you just going, let's go outside. Come here. And here is a sober coach companion in the most finest of forms. I was still smoking then. You said, come on, grab your cigarette, let's go outside. That was probably the most painful thing that ever happened to me, because I'd worked so hard on my sobriety and I was trying so hard. But listen, they're teenagers. They're going to be snarky sometimes. And they are honest with me. And that was an honest moment. It was just too much. And you said to me, that's when I learned the phrase, stay in your own lane. All you said to me is, honey, I see what you were doing and I see where he's coming from. I'm going to teach you something. It's called stay in your own lane. I need you. And what we did, we left I think we went to a meeting. I don't remember what we did. We went somewhere. I just said, guys, love you. I'll be back. And I just stayed in my lane, and you redirected my focus back to my recovery and me. Because at the end of the day, when you tell a kid what to do, they ain't going to do it.
Yeah.
If you show them what it looks like and let them kind of peek over, that's the best teacher you can be. And it was in that moment that you reminded me, stay in your lane, just keep showing them what sobriety looks like, but from your perspective, in your lane. Don't get in their lane, because especially because they're teenagers. And by the way, that goes for anybody. Can you imagine going to tell someone how to do their recovery? I'm like, excuse me.
Well, yeah, that's the attraction, not promotion thing. Because it's annoying when somebody's like, oh, do this, and they're too much with it. Because then our normal reaction is to be like, ooh, like, let's rebel against that. That's too much. But if you just see somebody and they're bright and they're happy and their life is getting better and the lights get turned on, you're like, oh, wow, like, what are they doing? Or like, I'm so proud. I'm so grateful. And that's just always better across the board. And I think your sons really saw that and continue to see it.
And I'll never forget that moment, because it was a transitional, pivotal point for me. And had I not had you there to simply still love his honesty, love my reaction to it, kind of just break it down into what was going on in that moment and gently say, honey, I get it. What you're doing, it's only from love.
Well, and that's the moment I'm talking about where I see like what my role, how it works is because, yes, if I wasn't there, you could have called someone, you could have done that, but it's that
Or relapse.
in that moment, that precious moment of grace, when we have that pain, that when we get out of our window of tolerance and we go into fight or flight or freeze, if we have that support right there, we are generally going to choose that support and not self-destruct and not self-sabotage. And that's just, if they say the opposite of addiction is connection, to have that connection, to have that support and that love and that encouragement works.
Well, that's why I'm trying to recover out loud. Even though I don't know everybody out there, hopefully through my social media, this talk show, wherever, when they hear me say, hey, nice to meet you, Dedee Fiver, I'm almost 5 years sober. This is what sobriety looks like. Was it hard in the beginning? Oh, you bet. I'm still trying to strengthen my sober legs. I'm still
I've been telling you that since I met you, like your story, your authentic truth is your gift, and you're going to use that. And like, I basically have seen this from day one, and I'm very proud of you.
Also, real quick, I want to just kind of wrap this up, but I want to talk about something that's really important. Sober coaches are expensive. Insurance doesn't cover them. I was incredibly fortunate that I had my family pay for you. And so to me, you and I talked about this, how that is not at all, insurance covers this. It's a monumental, important thing. Support and recovery is hugely important for the possibilities of relapsing. Relapsing is real. There's a business, by the way, in people relapsing, right? There's a business in that. So to get somebody to this point, and like you said, then they go out and they have they're now sober or not using their drug of choice, whatever. The world is still the same. They've changed. So without having that kind of support, and some of us more support, they're going to have to find it in, say, 12-step meetings or SMART meetings or wherever it is you find support, right? Or maybe your clergy.
Absolutely. And I think it's an interesting thing, because like you're saying, like, you go to rehab sometimes and you're like, you meet people and it's their 10th time, right? And it's like that revolving door and it becomes kind of like a safety. And if everything is in our brain and the wiring and the programming in our brain, it's like that becomes an easy safety net. And, I will never understand, honestly, why you're sober and why I'm sober, because I've met thousands of people and they really want it and then they'll relapse. And I remember working with this guy who just wanted his son back, and I worked a year with the courts and he got his son back and he was happier than ever. And then less than 24 hours, he had a needle in his arm. And I remember in that moment, that's when I was a counselor at a treatment center, I was like, wow, this thing is gnarly. This is a really crazy, wild thing. And I don't know how many rock bottoms I had and why I'm here now, because I could come up with some sort of, theory, but it's really, to me, I think it is that, because I never had a sober coach. I never went to rehab, but on May 26, 2013, I was going to commit suicide. And I just had this moment of grace, this, kind of spiritual awakening. And it was just like, you need to get sober. And I did, and I stayed. And I think what kept me personally is, I did get a sponsor. I did do the steps. I did create friendships where I was like, oh, wow, maybe I'm not terminally unique or weird or crazy. And I could have that me too factor of just that understanding. And, slowly but surely, I started to like myself. And then in liking myself and realizing I wasn't trying to like put on a show and I was having authentic relationships with people, that became more important to me than escaping and doing so much work. And I think work on myself. And I think if you want to stay and you can't afford a sober companion, you don't need that. Honestly, I think, it could work sometimes. I think maybe it could help your chances if you always have somebody with you, sure. But, I didn't have that, and it's not needed at all. All you need to do is just know that you can stay sober and just follow that hope, and then start doing a little bit of work. For me, I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. I, did something called the Hoffman process, of course, the steps, and just the more that you become self-aware and start cleaning out what's ever in your soul and all of your trauma and work that out, and then just create the future that you want. And what got me sober, and I'll say this to end this section, unless you have another question, is Deepak Chopra said, do you want to be a prisoner of your past or a pioneer of your future? And that woke me up, because I want to be a pioneer of my future. I do not have to wake up hungover. I do not have to wake up with shame, hating myself, questioning what I did or I didn't do. And any single person, if I can do it, if you can do it, they can do it too. It's just one action after the other, and then all of a sudden you have some time.
Elissa, I absolutely love what you just said, and I could not agree more. We're going to take a left-hand turn here.
Okay.
Because now we're the fun question.
Sure.
Do you believe in paranormal or spirits or any of that kind of stuff? And if you do, why? And if you don't, why?
Absolutely. I think that's what, runs my life. And kind of that moment I was talking about, even getting sober, it was a supernatural kind of thing. It's like, I believe, this is just my personal belief, that I chose to come to Earth. I chose, and I never thought this before I got sober. I thought I was cursed. I thought God was punishing. I was doomed. I couldn't get off the hamster wheel of negativity and self-destruction. And, it's been a journey, whether it's the steps or doing the Hoffman process. And then I found Joe Dispenza and weird spiritual things that I've, a wild day in New Mexico or whatever that is. I've had experiences, and, an experience is an experience, right? So it's like, if you're telling somebody about France, it's a lot different than if they have the experience of going to France, and they know what walking, the streets of Paris is like. And for me, that's kind of like spirituality. I have a spiritual connection and spiritual experiences where no one could take that away from me. And my belief is my belief. And I think, like I said, I chose to come here. I have a specific purpose to live. I've had many lives. My parents are every single person, like source God is everyone in drag. Every single person has
back up. What's in drag?
God, source, universe, love, light is everybody in drag. Every single person gives me an opportunity for me to expand my consciousness. Even the person that's really annoying me, it's just mirroring what I need to transcend within myself. And, the more that I stay on this path and realize, just have that self-awareness of, where my thoughts are. I think we're computers, and we've been programmed, perfectly by society, by our parents. And then what spirituality is understanding that we're programmed, and then reprogramming ourselves back to love, back to being connected to that divine source, and that gratitude, those feelings of when that there's something bigger. And in that, when we just are within that love within ourselves and are in that high frequency, we could create the reality that we want.
That's right. Okay. One last question. God, I love you. If you could be reincarnated as any animal, what would it be and why?
Okay. I feel like I would have to give two answers, because one, I would reincarnate as my long-haired Chihuahua. She's kind of sleeping right now, but I would want to reincarnate to her, or a situation like her, because I love her so much. Like, I spend the majority of my day giving her so much love. And like every day I just look at her and I'm just like, you are so gorgeous. You are so beautiful. How did I get so lucky? And I just love her like constantly. And so I think whoever reincarnates to a dog that is loved is the luckiest being.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know of any other animal, maybe a cat for some people that gets so much love. And then I also would say a dolphin, because I think dolphins are super spiritual and free. And they just seem really sweet and fun.
They really are. Actually, I saw a video of a fisherman throwing a ball, and the dolphin they were playing ball. And I was like, he's playing like throw the ball back and forth from his boat, and the dolphin out
Well,
in the
you're
middle.
you're the queen of animal videos. I get all my fixes from you.
And that's one thing I have to say I love about when you're active in your disease, you get so far away from anything that's where your morals, your ethics, your values, your loves, your passions just go out the fucking door, because it all becomes about your addiction. And then one of the most beautiful things I like to call about my rebirth in my 50s, I might add, so people out there that you're older, I promise you're never too old, is that I feel like I was able to get back to what really means everything to me, which is everything that Mother Earth produces, and that includes animals. Always an animal lover. I didn't stop loving animals when I was active in my disease. It's just that, the disease just comes in and just makes
Well, it separates you, and you recovered the truth of who you are. Your life.
I can't get enough. And if my recovering out loud helps just one person today, having you on today helps just one person, if anything, just plant the seed and run. Then wow, this day was not a wasted day and mission accomplished. And Elissa, I want to thank you for coming. Would you like to plug anything? Like, where's your Instagram? Or you don't really, you kind of like, is there anything you'd like to plug?
I don't know, because it's not really out yet, but like with my musical stuff. But one day soon, everyone will see that I basically have everything that we talked about in this conversation inspired me to write a musical about it.
And so you're the writer of a musical. Can you tell us the name of it to look for it, or no?
Sure. It's called Breaking Silence. And yeah, I'm in New York City right now trying to make stuff happen. Yeah, I'm in New York City, I'm in my little sardina can Airbnb here.
Treehouse. Well, Lisa, we were going to look forward to look for that musical. I'm so excited. And also for everybody to watch the show. You can get all the show notes where you can find us. I don't even know where that is yet. My producer DJ.
And if anyone wanted to ask about like sober companioning or that kind of thing, they could message me on Instagram.
Okay, what's your Instagram handle, babe?
At Elissa RRR, ELISSA RRR.
And people out there, if you have any questions, even if you're a family member or friend with somebody who's struggling, she's a fantastic to talk to, because sometimes all you can do with that person who you see is struggling within their disease, and by the way, it's not a choice, it is a disease. Sometimes all you can say is, hey, I can see you're struggling and I love you. And when you're ready for some help, let me know and I'll try to help you in whatever that might look like.
Absolutely.
Sometimes that's all you can say, because until they're ready, they're not going to change. But calling them names that is not useful, is not helpful or loving. And it's hard to sit back and watch someone slowly kill themselves, because that's what we're doing with addiction. That's hard. So I do.
Yeah. And you know what? I just had this experience, which is one of my lifelong best friends died in 2020. And I realized, even with all of my knowledge and all of, my expertise, because he was quote unquote never ready, I took it personally. And what you just said kind of woke me up and hit me with that, because I've thought a lot about this. It's that I didn't come to him that way. You know what I mean? Just the I'm here and I'm loving whenever you're ready. It was more like, you didn't show up. I had this and you didn't show up. And it's an interesting thing, because, as that person, we could get so disappointed and frustrated when somebody isn't showing up, they're lying, they're stealing, whatever that is. And if we are just the beacon of love and safety while having boundaries, I think that that's always best, so that they know when they are ready, there is somewhere to go.
I think that's probably one of the hardest things for anybody who's around somebody who is in their disease, active disease, is waiting for them to get ready to want help, to hit their bottom, whatever that might look like, right? And that's tough.
Yeah.
And I just want to shout out to everyone around those people. I get you, because my family and my boys and my friends saw that too. And they were like, what a shame. Dedee's such a light. She's such a lovely person. Wow, why does she keep doing that to herself? Well, they didn't understand addiction or trauma or any of that stuff. I didn't either until now. But I'm hoping that this podcast spreads a little light, a little information for those out there in the world, because honestly, we're all in this together, right? We're all connected. And Elissa, I can't thank you enough for you, being part of the solution.
I know I've already said this, but I am so genuinely proud of you. I'm so excited for you. I saw your whole entire transformation from the moment of just your complete hopelessness and desperation to this moment right here, right now. And it makes my heart sing.
Thank you. Oh my God, I love you. Thank you so much, sweetie.
I love you. And thank you.
Have a beautiful day, everybody. Bye-bye.
For more information on today's guest, check out the show notes below or visit our website at www.downwithdedee.com.